What?
Yeah, so that's a thing that just happened. I gotta be honest here. I'm having a real hard time with this one. I am having a real hard time figuring out how to come at this and how to review this film, because in all honesty, I don't really know what it is I just saw. And I mean that on a variety of levels. There is just a lot going on here, and so much of it you feel like you're coming in to the third film in a series where all this stuff has been established already, and you've missed a couple classes, which is especially scary when you realize that this is the first film in what is an obvious planned series. Obvious being that from the very first moment, the title comes up, it says Dune Part 1. I noticed that it's not in any of the other posters or any of the other advertising. And I think that may add to some of the issues with this movie. Oh, man. I just don't know where to start with this. I am legitimately trying to figure out, how do I want to come at this? So, when you're making a movie like this, or not even a movie, even a TV show, and you're coming into something that requires the audience have a certain amount of knowledge, and especially something where you have a large library of history, of mythology, and all that to pull on. There's 16 books in the Dune series, from what I understand. So there's a lot there. And one of the first hurdles that you're going to run into is, how are you going to bring the audience into this world? How are you going to get them to accept what's going on in this world so that they can connect with the characters and relate to the situations? And there are a number of ways to go about this. Things like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, they use the Greek chorus method. Here's a title scroll, it's going to tell you everything that you don't know. All right, or here's a flashback sequence with voiceover to give you, the background history that you have to give you the exposition, okay? So that's one method. There's other methods like just start the fucking movie and let people figure it out as they go along. Pretend like this fantasy world has just always existed, and figure that people are going to pick up on the things that they need to know as the film progresses. Game of Thrones did this. I remember when I first watched Game of Thrones, like the first 2-3 episodes, I was saying the same thing there that I was saying watching this film. I was going, wait, what? Who is this? What is happening? What are they talking about? What rebellion? What war? Why is that guy fucking his sister? Where is the wall? What is the point of any of this? And then, through viewing and through the engaging characters, I think that's the key here. With the engaging characters, kept you locked in so that you were more interested in them than you were trying to put the pieces of the mythology and the world together. And through the investment in the characters, the world began to take shape, and before you know it, you're one of these people who can recite the history of the 7 kingdoms. Star Trek does this as well. So there are pros and cons, and there are ways to do it that is going to best benefit your material. This film decides to go with just throw the audience in and just start the film. They give us a tiny little bit of backstory, a tiny little narration. So they try to have it both ways. They give you a little bit of narration, backstory, title scroll type stuff, and then they just kind of chuck you into the deep end and say, shit's gonna happen, figure it out as you go. I don't think they really made the right choice, and I'll explain why here in just a second, because I spent the majority of this film trying to figure out what the hell everyone was talking about or what was going on. It was so hard to figure out what was happening. Okay, that's a lie. Or not a complete truth, I should say. I could tell what was happening generally. So, as best I can figure out, follow me along on this, folks. So, we have a desert planet of Tatooine, where in the sand there is magic sand called spice, which can be used both as a hallucinogenic drug and as fuel for spaceships, therefore making it a valuable commodity to everybody in the universe, essentially. The planet had been being harvested, what do you call it? Mined for this stuff by the evil planet of Leather Boys, which include Dave Bautista. And they were constantly stripping the planet of all this spice and getting into fights with the native population, which includes Zendaya. For reasons I can't quite understand, the evil Leather Boys are eventually driven off of Tatooine, and the Emperor Palpatine, whom we never see, and we don't really get any glimpse of the Empire itself, decides that now they want this House Atreides, which is basically our House Stark, which is full of good, noble, wonderful, brave people, to go and take over the mining operations on this, on Tatooine. You can definitely see the Game of Thrones influence, you can definitely see the influence of Dune in Game of Thrones, because this House Atreides is basically House Stark, almost to a letter. House Stark heads to Tatooine to try to mine the sand spice. Everybody goes, including the leader of House Stark's young son, who is also apparently some kind of Jedi mutant, because his mother is some kind of space witch who it's said that her race, whatever they are, can choose what gender babies they have, and she should have had a girl, and they would have had the more powerful telepathy, but because she had a boy, she didn't. But even though he is a boy, he's still prophesized to be some kind of space messiah. But anyway, they go to Tatooine to start mining the space spice. Unbeknownst to them, the evil Empire has made an agreement with the evil Leather Boys and their leader, fat, disgusting Stellan Skarsgård, which, just as a side note, I have to believe this has got to be some kind of immense joke by Hollywood. Hey, you know how Stellan Skarsgård's kids are best known in their movies for showing off their chiseled physique, and in that werewolf show they were on HBO walking around with their genitals flopping out? Let's make their dad the fattest, most disgusting character on the face of the earth. Let's do that. It has to be. So anyway, the Empire and the evil Leather Boys attack House Stark on Tatooine, and young Messiah Boy and his mother, whom has a bizarre kind of Oedipal thing going on with him, it looks like, are kidnapped and end up lost in the desert. They make their way to find the Sand People to team up with them, because he's apparently going to be their Messiah, and the film ends when they meet the Sand People and they decide he's the Messiah. That's what's going on. So when I said a minute ago that I didn't know what was happening in this movie, that wasn't entirely true. I guess what I should have said was I knew what was happening. What I didn't know is why it was happening, or why the hell I should care. This is where the problem with the dense mythology comes in. I have no idea why anything is happening. I don't know why the Leather Boys ran out. I'm not sure why the evil emperor decided House Stark had to be the one to go take care of it. I think it's something to do with they're too powerful and too good and too wonderful, and they're worried that all the other great houses will follow them and overthrow the empire. I think that's what's going on. Still not sure why Messiah Boy is the Messiah or anything with the space witches. But that's okay. It's okay if you don't know all that stuff. It really, really is. You can get into it and still enjoy the story if the story is engaging and the characters are engaging. I mentioned a second ago that that's what kept a lot of people, myself included, locked into Game of Thrones. Even though it had a very dense history and a very, complex mythology, we got into it and we stuck through those things because the characters are so engaging. And the characters are not. They are not engaging in the least. This movie, I might have thought higher of it if it had anything that even remotely resembled an interesting or engaging character. It's got fantastic actors. Don't get me wrong. This thing is stacked. The cast in this is not to be believed. Rachel Ferguson, Oscar Isaac, Stellan Skarsgård, James Brolin, Jason Momoa, Dave Bautista, and more. Those are just some of the ones I just know right off the top of my head. So it has got a list, well put together cast, and you can tell they took a lot of time with the casting of this. What they forgot to do was make any of the characters even remotely interesting. They are the very definition of one note. They each have a character trait, and that's about it. Batista is evil. Jason Momoa is Jason Momoa. James Brolin is the growly cable guy. Oscar Isaacs is the good, noble, the less interesting Ned Stark. Rachel Ferguson, I don't even know what the fuck she is. She's a space witch, Oedipus mom. I don't fucking know. And this kid playing our lead, playing Space Messiah, I get that he's supposed to be the next big thing, and he's, I get that. But for me, for the lead of your movie, he was taking the entire film to demonstrate this new style of acting, which is stare blankly into the distance or at the camera and whisper all your dialogue so that you seem intense and thought-provoking. Doesn't really work for me. I want to say Zendaya is good, but she's nowhere near. The best person in this is Jason Momoa. And that's simply because Jason Momoa is just being Jason Momoa. Hi, I'm charismatic, I'm awesome, I'm big and happy, and I'm a badass. He's just being Jason Momoa, and Jason Momoa is fun to watch. But otherwise, it's just, I'm making the Game of Thrones comparison a lot because the thing that I was thinking this even before I watched this movie is that I wonder why this movie has never been made into a series. Because it feels like it's more tailor-made to a series. Anything that has this complex of a backstory and mythology needs more time to flush it out. And as I've mentioned, we need to care about the characters and their situation so that the mythology and everything starts to sink in. This is where a lot of films and a lot of television series, this is where a lot of things that are trying to emulate cinematic universes go wrong, is they seem to think that what people are going for is the mythology, and they're not. What keeps you coming back are the characters. Even, I'm not a big Lord of the Rings fan. I'm not a Lord of the Rings fan at all. But I will say that the characters at least had personalities and traits, and they were characters I can understand why other people would want to follow for 3-hour-long movies. I don't see that here. I don't know why I care about any of these characters at all. I'm not moved when any of them die. I'm not interested in their journey. And part of it is because I don't know what the fuck is going on, and the other part is I don't give a shit. Now, I'm coming off really hard on this movie, but I have to say this, in its favor, it is one of the most beautifully directed movies I have seen in a long time. Okay, the theater is clearly, Warner Brothers, excuse me, is clearly trying to recreate another Lord of the Rings. That is what they are trying to do here. It is crystal clear. Cast of thousands, sweeping, epic, big sets. Everything in this is telling you they are trying to create a new Lord of the Rings. And why shouldn't they? That was a big moneymaker for them. And I think in terms of visual style, they succeeded. I can complain about a lot of things in this movie. One thing I can't complain about is the direction and the visual style. It is a gorgeous, stunningly beautiful movie to look at. The sets, the costumes, the CGI, the attention to detail. You really do feel like you are in this sprawling world. This huge established society, multiple societies, and they feel lived in and tangible. You can tell that there was just so much thought put into this, into every directorial choice that there was. As I mentioned, you can tell they cast this film with great care. And that does not surprise me because everything about it has great care. It is something you can really tell the director has an eye for. The director for this film is David I'm gonna pronounce his last name wrong, so I'm just not going to try. But he's the same guy who directed The Arrival, which is another gorgeous movie, cinematically beautiful. So this director has a clear understanding of visual language. And if I can say nothing else good about this movie, I can say that from top to bottom, beginning to end, every minute detail of this thing looks like $1 billion trillion. It is fan-fucking-tastic. The only technical aspect I can have any kind of gripe with is the music. I really hate the music for this because it has the same problem that I complained about with Wonder Woman, and I complained about it way back when I reviewed Batman v Superman, and that is that it is just filled with all of these music cues and all of this which is not a bad thing in and of itself, but for every fucking second of it. Not every moment of your film is goddamn epic. Not every moment of your fucking movie needs to be accompanied with music that's main goal is to shout at the audience going, look at the important thing. Look at how important this is. This is so important. Me doing that over this movie has the exact same effect as the music. Okay? Tone it the fuck down. All right? Just let your film be. Think about, again, I'm not a Lord of the Rings fan, but I'm praising Peter Jackson a lot here. Think of the music from Lord of the Rings. You know it, but it was never invasive. It was never, slamming into your face going, look at this. The music from Star Wars, same thing. But here, God, okay, we get it. It's an epic. Jesus, tone it down a notch. Stop going for an Oscar on every damn note. Oh, yeah. So yeah, that's Dune, in my opinion. As I've said, there's good in this movie. But I think one of the major problems, as again, they're trying to create a new Lord of the Rings, is this movie is 2.5 hours long. And it simultaneously feels like it's too long and too short. I feel like what we watched in this movie should have been maybe the first and second act of a much longer film that the third act has been chopped out of. This doesn't have a cohesive beginning, middle, and end. So I don't know if this is a situation where they have they filmed two movies simultaneously, or if they filmed this one and then are, you know, doing the Golden Compass thing and going, please let us have a sequel, please, 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 please. So I don't know. I don't know which one they're going for here, but it as opposed to the Lord of the Rings trilogy, it has the same problem the Hobbit trilogy did, in that you took a book and split it into three, and therefore you took one thing that had one beginning, middle, and end, and tried to split it into three things to have a beginning, middle, and end, and it doesn't. It falls flat. It's anticlimactic. It ends, and you're just like, okay, that's it? That's everything? 2.5 hours, and you feel like you came virtually nowhere. It's staggering to me. I think that if you're a fan of the books, which I know a lot of people are, my father is a big fan of the books, then you're probably going to like this because you will probably understand everything that's going on. And will probably have a better appreciation of Easter eggs or minor details than, you know, a novice to the entire thing. But speaking just from a first-time viewing, I've never even seen the original Dune all the way. I've seen bits and pieces of it and went, I don't know what's happening, you know, out. But speaking just from basically a novice, I see the potential here, and I see why people are excited for this. And I will admit that maybe now that maybe all the background stuff is kind of there. Maybe thinking, okay, second part, we're really going to get going, and maybe it's really going to look really cool. Then, yeah, I think I'm kind of interested to see a second one, but it's on thin ice because I think I would only want to see a second one to maybe try to understand what is happening, and, you know, if the same director is back, because it's a fucking beautiful movie to look at. But yeah, so okay, I think I've talked myself hoarse. Let's wrap this up. So final grade for Dune, I'm going a C. A basic C, not a C plus, not a C minus. And what's giving it its what's giving it its status as a C is, again, directorially, no issues. Directorially, it is gorgeous. If you just want to watch this just to watch it and not care what's going on, you're in for a treat. And also, again, you have a good cast in place, and you're excited to kind of go, oh, wow, this guy. So the actors' natural charismas are able to kind of, you know, carry through a lot of it, but I don't care about any of them. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why I should care. So I guess the C is for who cares. One last thing before I part. One last little thing that was bugging me as I was watching this film. Why are there no ray guns? Why are there no firearm of any kind? Now, I'm not saying this because I'm a gun nut. I hate guns. And, you know, especially given recent, you know, news stories, that's very insensitive. I just realized it kind of says. So I'm gonna let's rephrase and say, why are there no space guns? Why are there no blasters in this? They're a society that have, you know, extremely advanced spacefaring, you know, technology at their disposal. You know, they can colonize worlds, they can harvest spice, they have intergalactic, you know, space travel, and they're fighting with swords. All of their spaceships have weapons, but they don't have blasters. How did that work? How does that happen? You know, anyway, that was just something that was bugging me as I was watching this. Anyway, so that is Dune. Yeah. Alrighty. So, not quite done. I know I've been posting a lot recently, but that's okay. There's a lot going on. We're trying to get these films out before the end of the year. Starting to think about top 10 lists. The return of my top 10 list. My previous thing didn't work so well. But anyway, so we're gonna see what else the cinema has to offer this weekend. So I hope you'll come back and join me for the next review. Thank you for watching, and as always, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.